Okay, let's get the ARB meeting. Roll call, please.
Cavazos. Here. Rivera-Mosick.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Corral.
Here.
Okay. We'll start this meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next agenda item, minute approval.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the meeting minutes. I did want to request that I did listen through the meeting again. Some key points that I think would be helpful to have in that was multiple points in the discussion. We talk about the limited information that was provided that with the application that was before us. So I can give some citations to the clerk to consider that in there. We did go through the applicable ordinances, criteria, and guidelines that affect our decision. I talked about that at one point, would like that or suggest that that be referenced as part of the minutes as well.
Okay, since we have some notes to add to the minutes, I assume we'll hold off until next meeting for approval of these minutes.
So moved.
Okay, let's move on to citizens' time. I got a clipboard here of citizens. All these are associated with COAs. If anybody wants some time outside of the COAs for, I guess, discussing or giving us feedback on our performance or what have you, here's the time for it. Is there anybody who would like to contribute to citizens' time? Okay. Then we'll move on to the next agenda items, which is the COA agenda. First one, ZP 2019-020.
Thank you. So this is the application for demolition of 6706 Jefferson Street that was tabled at our last meeting, June 19th. I have not received any additional materials from the applicant or any additional justifications, so we have what was presented at the last meeting and of course the discussion that we had captured in the minutes here. I will say at the July 1st meeting, council did discuss hiring a third-party inspector to do a report, and so that report will be presented to the town council on August 5th. But other than that, we don't have any additional documents. Do you guys want to?
Will that report be presented to us as well, or a copy of it?
From the council, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Ryan Morgan with Purpose Lodging. We have the certificate of appropriateness in front of you, so thank you for letting us speak this evening. After the last ARB meeting, we reviewed multiple scenarios on how to incorporate the building into our development. Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for providing examples of prior buildings that have been incorporated into the development. We did look at those. We went back to our architect. We asked them to find a way to work around the structure. Their response was, unfortunately, with the amenities we have, the meeting space, the lobby, the F&B components, it was not practical along with the parking count to incorporate that building. In the meantime, our traffic engineer went back and had a conversation with VDOT. During that conversation, it was determined that they would be requesting a turn lane. That turn lane would be about 15 feet. And so after we take the 15 feet for the turn lane, the curb and gutter, and the sidewalk, it would actually enter into the living room of the existing building. So reincorporating it was not an option with the sidewalk and the turn lane. So we went back to the original engineer's report to determine the feasibility of moving the building. Is it possible? The structural degradation of the building would require significant supporting inside the building in order to allow it to be moved. There's no assurances that once that support is put in place, that lifting the building would keep it from collapsing. That does not even take into consideration the significant expenses of moving power lines, coming in and have somebody move it. Traffic permits are required to make that happen. And so from a cost standpoint and feasibility standpoint, it doesn't look like moving the building is an option, let alone who would take that building if somebody should want it. We're happy to answer any other questions, but we think that we've addressed all of the guidelines in the ARB as far as the feasibility of incorporating the building into the project, the feasibility of moving the building itself, and so we're open to any questions that you might have.
Okay, well, we did assess this previously, about 3 meetings before, and another COA that had that involved. I guess to prepare for what our ordinances have, I directed Marchant to prepare some statements of, I guess, how we feel this building plays within the community historically, also with the ordinances, the codes that we have in place. And I'd like to let him do his report on, or I guess verbalize his research that was directed by the board.
Can I do that first and then ask questions about the testimony? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that first. This is from the findings that were prepared for the last demolition permit. I think what we did in the first instance, this is essentially the same application that was presented to us in January. In my analysis, the application is inconsistent with the stated purpose of the Old and Historic District Overlay. The subject structure is designated historic building with the Old and Historic Town of Haymarket. The purpose of the Old and Historic Haymarket District Overlay is to protect against the destruction of such historic resources. The application is inconsistent with the intent of the Town Center District B1. The zoning ordinance states, recognizing the economic value of the existing historical area, it shall further be the intent of the B1 district to encourage the retention and rehabilitation of structures and uses in the district that have historic and or architectural significance. Excuse me just a second. The application is inconsistent with the Town of Haymarket Comprehensive Plan. Per Table 16 of the plan, historic building inventory, 6706 Jefferson Street, historical name Gossam House, is designated historic and worthy of protection in the Town of Haymarket. The plan states historic structures are important because they contribute to the town Haymarket's sense of place and provide tactile lessons on the cultural influences of the community. The plan also cites historic resources as fragile and non-renewable. If they are destroyed, the loss is permanent. For the Division Historic Landmark Survey form for the property, the 1890 structure is a simple vernacular house which has undergone very little alteration since its building. The building retains all the character defining architectural features from the building's period of significance and is a contributing element to the Haymarket Historic District. The building is an important, if not only, example of Queen Anne architecture that reflects the evolution of building styles in the town. Moreover, families and individuals that have owned the property, these are the Butlers, Garnetts, Gossams, and Costellos, have contributed to the town's cultural and economic history. Further matters to be considered by the ARB as outlined in the zoning ordinance and in the context of the property's location near the historic crossroads, the continued existence of the subject structure will protect irreplaceable historic places and preserve the general historic atmosphere of the town. The structure's position on the lot contributes to the town historic streetscape along the town's southern gateway. Per the ARB review design guidelines, the application materials neither state the reason for the demolition nor describe the alternatives to demolition and why such alternatives in a rehabilitation of the building is not considered feasible. This is based on the information that was submitted in the packet, or not submitted in the packet. The 7/20/2018 engineer report submitted with the application describes conditions that required remediation similar to other historic structures in the town that have been adaptively reused and are reasonably expected to have a market value that exceeds rehabilitation costs. Further matters to be considered by the ARB, these rehabilitated structures promote the general welfare consistent with the listed criteria within the zoning ordinance. That concludes, and Mr. Chairman, I base this on the guidelines, ordinance criteria, and the comprehensive plan. I did have some, are we ready for responses on the comments yet, or testimony? Or do we not?
Why not, I guess, have any responses or questions that are addressed here? I'm assuming you're asking that from the applicant?
Well, just with the verbal testimony tonight, we did not have any written testimony. That's the requirement of the ordinance. But do we want to have questions based on what's been said?
If you would like to ask some
Okay.
questions.
I guess, I'm sorry, I just forgot your
Ryan Worthy.
Mr. Worthy. The proposal that the concept you have across the street is not currently entitled, correct?
It is not.
Okay. So we're not allowed to do that, and so part of our criteria, I don't think, is to consider that. So I think a concept, especially one that's not currently entitled, is not something really we can base our decision, in my opinion. In terms of the turn lane, and I respectfully say that, but I consider that a kind of a red herring. To taper a road into the living room and then taper back to the main road. This turn lane out here was a waived, I believe, a waived condition that VDOT looked at. To me, at a minimum, that same situation would be replicated along Jefferson. There's a lot of other right-of-way costs and telephone pole costs being relocated. So without having that information in front of us, and again, based on plans that we can't review, I don't see that as a qualifying item to base our decision on. So that's the end of my comments.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Feel
Oh, I'm
free.
sorry. Yes.
It's our understanding from VDOT that any development that happens over there will require an expansion of Jefferson Street, along with curb and gutter and sidewalk. So that is the opinion of our traffic consultant after speaking with VDOT. Also, our council doesn't believe that it is appropriate to discuss entitlement. That does not play into the overall guidelines of whether or not the ARB can make a decision on the certificate of appropriateness. And I feel like we've addressed the other two feasibility items in there, reuse or moving it. We would be happy to provide any sort of documentation or photographic evidence of the building should you approve the COA. At our expense, we would be happy to provide that. We can provide that in written form should you request it, but we feel like we've addressed all concerns.
Okay. So you kind of proved my point by referring to those concepts, and we can't do it. That really shouldn't be part of our conversation. In terms of the feasibility of the offsite, we asked that last month, and we had asked for additional analysis. I don't think anyone objected to the content of the study. It was the fact that there was no sort of financial or other analysis, and I believe that was our expectation this evening, that there would be some effort. So I would ask why there was no attempt to, in some sort of narrative or some other way, to respond to those comments prior to go out with the packet. Was there any compelling reason why?
To provide an update.
Yeah, why that you did not
We're here
prepare?
tonight to provide an update.
Okay. So your verbal update is in lieu of providing the,
We'd be happy to
Okay.
provide it in writing for you.
okay. Thank you.
Does anybody on the board have questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Feel free.
Thank you. I just want to help council sort of focus the discussion today because we're talking about the demolition permit itself. And as you're talking about these things, we want to make sure that we stay inside of what the code provides and what the guidelines provide. And looking at these issues, we've got to really focus on the historic interest of the town, and whether or not raising or demolishing this particular structure is going to affect the historic interest of the town or the architectural aspects of the town. We can't really talk about or consider what's going to happen with the property after demolition, or sort of the VDOT issues associated with it. We have to look at this particular structure itself and determine whether or not if the structure is not there anymore, how are the ways in which the historic aspect or feel of the town will be affected by that particular demolition, and whether or not the architectural feel of the town also will be disrupted by that demolition. So we've really got to narrow the focus of our discussion and consideration to those things, because the way the code is written, it doesn't require you to consider much more than that. In other words, we can't consider what the town council might do, what the planning commission might do, or those sorts of things that are outside of the purview of what the code provides for us. So just want to be careful that we limit our consideration to those things.
To just clarify that, so like, for instance, the VDOT suggestion about the turn lane, that's not to be based, our
Right,
decision's not to be
exactly.
based on that?
It's not related to the historical aspect of that particular piece of property or that structure or the architectural
Or
aspect.
concepts that are not in play?
Right, exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Does that include concepts of moving it?
Yes. I think you can think about how moving it would affect the historical aspect of the town, sure. But we can't talk about we can't consider what's going to be in its place after it's moved.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I believe the research you had me do, I do believe it's within the parameters of what we are to consider.
That's
I
right.
agree.
And what paragraph in here, if you could reread it, about the historic value of this with the bloodlines and the contributors of this town?
Sure. First, on the architecture per the Division of Historic, you want to read the whole thing again?
Well,
Well, I can summarize two things.
what we're trying to do is, we've gotten a direction here. We just want to reinforce that by what we've already said.
Okay. So, yeah, we cover that, the intent of the districts, the intent of the old and historic Haymarket District, what our comp plan says in terms of what's listed as a historic structure and what the importance of that is. The survey, we talk about, what is the architectural and cultural significance. So we talk about this is Queen Anne architecture, relatively untouched. There's not a duplicative structure anywhere in town that's similar. And then these families that are associated with it are folks that, with some more research, probably could tease out more, but these are generally families that are well-known in the town and have contributed both to the cultural and economic history. Right now, to have that structure removed, the balance of it, the entirety of the site would more or less be razed except for the museum. The continued existence would protect historic places and preserve the general atmosphere of the town. And then the last one is, that's a requirement, says very clearly applicants must provide a written statement explaining the reason for demolition and describe alternatives. That's not been included with the items, so that's the basis of all that. But generally, there's the history, what the architecture means, what those families mean. That's part of the analysis. So,
Does the board have any questions for Marchant about what he's done his research on, the value of the building?
No, but I do appreciate you compiling all of that, and
Good.
I think that we've discussed it now at multiple meetings, and I know how I feel. Unless anyone else has any comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
okay. Okay, I'll have some friendly amendments for that as well.
What would you like to say?
I was also prepared to make a motion to include the findings.
Do you want to
Also-
go ahead and make a motion then?
That's okay with
Yeah,
you? And then,
sure.
one of the things that I think we talked about last time was the condition of the building. And so I was going to suggest a motion that talks about, I think this point has been very informal, having Emily talk to the owner. We do have deterioration by neglect provisions that are subject to our purview, and then we have the blight ordinance. So I was going to suggest a motion that the staff go ahead and start addressing the windows and the grass. And then the next one was just a suggestion that if this is on appeal, that some information be included, recommended to be included. So if we're all comfortable with that, I can read that into the motion. Okay. I move that the ARB deny zoning permit 2019-20 based on the conclusions that I previously read. Those are 7 items. we probably should call them findings for denial. And I further move that the ARB direct staff to start enforcement action regarding the blighted condition of this designated historic building, either through the deterioration by neglect provisions of the zoning ordinance or blight provisions of the codified ordinance, specifically securing broken windows and removal of vegetative growth. And I further move the ARB recommend the staff report to the council regarding any appeal of this ARB decision includes summary minutes, draft or final, of the ARB discussion, all relevant motions, and findings for denial.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the motions. I think they probably should be done one at a time and then voted on one at a time, just for clarity purposes.
So do the denial one first? Okay. Would it be necessary to read all these again? I got
Just to make
copies.
sure everyone's on the same
I can
page.
provide copies out. Yes, there should be enough to go around.
All the way down to you guys.
Just for clarity, what I did not read verbatim was finding 1, which was on January 16th, 2019, the Architectural Review Board denied the same application. No new information or further written justification has been submitted by the applicant to warrant a reversal of the previous decision. So, okay, I'll read the first motion again, Mr. Chairman. I move that the ARB deny zoning permit 2019-20 based on the stated findings for denial.
I second the motion.
Okay, I got a motion and second. Last chance for any type of discussion. I would like to add to finding 1 that Marchant just discussed, saying that this was appealed and defended, I don't know what the term would be, by the council. So obviously we got support from council on that first decision. And since there is no other information, I don't see any way of, with these findings to flip-flop my decision. Anybody else have any discussions before we vote?
Just, I think this is being done for consistency and precedent. So.
Okay, I'd like to put this to vote, and I think I would like to get a roll call vote on this.
Bassos,
Yes.
Rivera Mosick,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Corral.
Yes.
I'm going to read the next motion.
Next motion, please.
I move that the ARB recommend the staff report of the town council regarding any appeal of this ARB decision includes summary minutes, draft or final, of the ARB discussion, all motions, and findings for denial.
I second the motion.
I got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Okay, let's put it up for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I move that the ARB direct staff to start enforcement action regarding the blighted condition of this designated historic building, either through the deterioration by neglect provisions of the zoning ordinance. Should I state the, I'm sorry, my backup. Should I state the address or no? Is that pretty clear?
You may want, just for clarity purposes, state the address.
Since they're going differently. So I further move, excuse me, let me restart. I further move the ARB direct staff to start enforcement action regarding the blighted condition of 6706 Jefferson Street, a designated historic building, either through the deterioration by neglect provisions of the zoning ordinance or blight provisions of the codified ordinance, specifically securing of broken windows and removal of vegetative growth.
I second the motion.
Okay, got a motion and second. Again, discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to the next item. ZP 2019-022.
Anyone signed up for this? Anyone signed up for any of the,
What's that?
on the sign up, who signed up?
So tonight we have before us ZP 2019-022 for Taco Bell Architectural Elevations. I do have a sample board here that I will pass out, as well as the documents you have in your packet. Some of the concerns I have here are that not all of the sign elements are in keeping with the master sign plan. as well as our sign ordinance. So I would like to request that the applicant strike several of the signs from the facades on the building. As I read our sign ordinance, section 58 dash 15.10, the sign ordinance does not allow for 4 signs. They have presented a plan here that shows at least 1 sign, if not 2, on all facades. And so in keeping with our sign ordinance, I can read through this for you during the discussion, but we allow for wall signs 1 per business, and for individual letter signs 1 per business. So the maximum allowed signage I'm interpreting our ordinance to read is 2. We can discuss that though if you wish, but I know Igor is here as well as a Taco Bell representative to answer any questions that you may have or discuss any of the elements that you see here on the sample board. If you guys want to go ahead and go up.
Good evening, my name is Dan Wilson. I'm with GLB Architects representing the franchisee for Taco Bell. What you have before you is the color board that we did put together. However, the stone picture that is on that board was too large to attach to the board, so I did bring a sample with me. Regarding the signage, yes, what you do see in the elevations are kind of what we call prototypical signage requests from the franchisee.
I think that's it. I'm switching on.
Okay. Do I need to start over?
If you don't.
Okay, so, yeah, if you need to see the stone sample, I've got the sample back here. Regarding the signage, the elevations currently show what we call prototypical, kind of what the owner would like to see. But, yeah, understanding that you guys do have zoning regulations for signage. Our signage vendor is currently working with Emily to define those, and I think there's some questions that they're still working out, and we can get that modified. The colors that you see in the elevations do reflect what the landlord has got shown on the remainder of the buildings in the development as far as the James Hardy board. The cobblestone and timber bark are the color names. The awnings are going to be the iron ore, which is similar to the slate gray that is called out in the landlord drawings. And then the stone is a similar color that is similar to what the landlord has shown as southern ledge stone. I'd be open to answer any questions you may have.
One of my first questions is about the style of the roof. I know that in the plans for the overall project, we approved the roofs being pitched and this is flat. And so I know that I would prefer to see a pitched roof. I think it's more in line with the architectural style of the overall development and of course with the town.
Sure. The prototypical set of drawings from corporate does call for a flat parapet roof. We did introduce a couple pitched roofs on the entrance side above the entrance and then the drive-through side. So that's one way that we try to accommodate that pitched roof look that you were after.
When you say corporate, does that mean preferred or required?
It's what they call a prototype.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it changes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and we adjust as needed.
I think having the pitched roof going around the entire building would be more in line with our historic guidelines.
The one concern I would have is just the size of the building. It's not, obviously as long as some of the shopping centers in that district. Adding a pitched roof along the whole stretch of it, I'm concerned with the look of it. If it's too much building, not enough roof type of thing, so I guess we would have to explore that elevation and see how it would look.
So if we think about the McDonald's matches the architecture of the main. So I'm encouraged by the fact that you're incorporating the hardy plank, the stone, the awnings. I would agree, though, that having a flat roof, but then trying to have some of these roof lines seems forced. So I would look for the feedback that if we want to have a standard roof there, but when you look at the elevation that faces Washington Street, this is on page 28. I cheated, I printed it off. We have almost seems like it would make more sense than rather than having these two kind of tops, that maybe you just have just the stone column and remove those. So you don't have that effect altogether, if that makes sense. I was trying to think what Chick-fil-A did. Chick-fil-A had the flat roof, but had some of these features that broke up the massing. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that or not, but you understand what I'm saying?
And what you see in that elevation that you pointed out, those sloped roofs are actually beyond, they're
Okay.
midway through the building.
But it kind of gives the effect that there's these eyebrows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really
So-
wouldn't see that from that view at a eye level,
Okay.
That's,
Would it make sense, are you amenable to maybe removing those, keeping it flat? But I was encouraged by, I guess this is the elevation here, that's where we're seeing that standing seam roof on the street. Is that, what about just removing that? I guess first of, is there a general preference for let's go there, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there a general preference for the standing seam?
I'm against the flat roof design. I think it's
Entirely?
too
Okay.
modern.
Yeah, we totally went through a scrutinization of this whole complex.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's right.
decided on stuff. So to add a flat roof would, I think, detract from what we've approved before. Now, there might be some options that we can review, bond, and that's kind of like, instead of having a full peaked roof, that we have kind of the pseudo tilted in seam metal roofs.
So it gives the appearance
That
of
gives the
it.
appearance that it's going into the pitch, so that it kind of falls in flavor with the other building. That might be something that would be acceptable.
Well, there's on page 38 of the packet, on the north elevation. This is the one, what's the one that's the fast food restaurant? Look, I'm sorry, page 36, one of the restaurant layouts. You can see that I assume that the pitch of the standing seam roof,
On the west elevation?
yeah, on the west elevation. So I assume that if you were to do the entire pitch of that roof, it would be really high. The pitch of the roof seems to be canted, and actually the top of the roof is flat, and that's where people sit their AC vents in. So could you do something like that? Does that make sense? That you're not this really massive pitch?
And I think that's just what we're going for, is
Yeah.
just having that illusion that it's almost like a farmhouse roof, even if it was,
To match the rest of the complex. Okay. That's something you want to consider?
yeah, I can take it back to the owner and offer that to their consideration.
one of the other concerns I had is the interior lit signage. I know that for the overall project, we discussed allowing the logo, but having like the gooseneck lighting and spot lighting on the signs. So I'd like to see that change as well.
So
No-
the
No
goose-
interior illuminated signage.
Have the gooseneck, is that what they're?
And I know that Emily was going to go over the zoning ordinance, and that, Emily, do you want to just read over that part?
So, Section 58-15.10 of our zoning ordinance outlines exactly what is permitted in the B2 for our sign ordinance. We have here that there's 1 freestanding sign per road front, 2 maximum per lot. I know there was a request for some freestanding signage leading customers into the lot and the premises. 1 projecting sign, 1 wall sign per business, plus 1 for end units. The plus 1 would not apply, it's a standalone restaurant. Individual letter, 1 per business per road frontage. Canopy signs are permitted. Second entrance, 1 per business. And then you have your minor signs, which is a different section. So as I read it, I'm seeing a maximum of 2 signs per the structure. based on the pictures you have here, I'm recommending striking the sign from the rear facade. This backs up to other commercial businesses within the development as well as the townhouse structures. I know that we were trying to be, during the master sign plan discussion, we were trying to be very lenient and, not lenient, I'm sorry, very conscious of the residents who would live back there and what they would see. And was it lit at night, things like that were taken into consideration. So I think that this one should be struck, as well as the sign that is on the side with the pickup window. Once you're over there, that backs up to Giuseppe's, so I don't see the need for it on that side. Does the board have any questions regarding those recommendations?
I would agree.
And I'm sorry, what did you say with the monument sign, striking the monument sign?
Not the monument sign. The sign on the rear facade is the logo, and then the sign on the drive-through side where the pickup window is.
My initial thought was just to revise it based on the limits of the ordinance, and then have the applicant decide what they want to focus on, but I agree that we need to require a recommendation so that when they go to pick their signage, they know where we're at. The monument sign, it seems repetitive. I can't remember where our menu sign is.
The development menu sign?
Yeah, is it redundant? I mean, people are going to see this structure. It just seems unnecessarily. I guess they can have one monument sign per business.
One freestanding per road front.
So I guess my suggestion would be if the applicant would consider eliminating that, given the other signage per the sign plan. I did ask Emily today, did this require the amendments to the original sign plan, and she corrected me that no, that the guidance was you could come in and administratively get your signage approved based on the sign plan. If you wanted something different, you had to come in. So, but that would be my recommendation, revising the signage to remove the unapproved sign types. I guess colors, was there any comments on colors?
Can I ask one question on the signage real quick?
Mhm.
The signage that we got shown on the tower, the stone tower,
Okay.
where it's the Bell logo as well as the wording below it, is that considered one sign? Can it be considered one sign? I know other jurisdictions do allow that considered to be one sign.
We have to defer. I'll wait till Emily answers.
I definitely would like the ARB's input on this, and the reasoning is on the side. So I'm looking at packet page 27. So as the main entrance, you have the logo sign above the door, and then you have individual letter signs off to the right. And then on packet page 28, you have the tower with the two together. Above that, though, you have the pickup window side. If both of those are struck, then I can understand treating the ones on the tower as the same, but I'm also okay saying just the bell or just the wording. But how does the ARB?
Just saying,
So
I'm going to drop these two
when we drop those two,
and then go back to just allowing,
so on that page that you have up there, Marchant, page 27, you have the logo above the door.
okay,
I would treat that as a wall sign, and you
Okay.
have letters above the windows. That's your individual, one per business, per front.
Okay.
I think on the tower, one of them should be struck.
on this one right here?
Yes.
My initial thinking was, on this facade, if there was a permitted sign, is just move the bell and have the two corners. That way, if you're coming eastbound or westbound, you could see it. Coming eastbound, you can see it. But it sounds like that's too many signs to move that.
And if I can speak on behalf of the franchisee, that tower, the stone tower is kind of like their signature
Signature.
look, if you will. So having that bell and letters on that tower is important to them. So if that can remain and then keep either the logo or just the letters on one of the sides, is
Okay.
probably what they would want to do.
Yeah, my only concern about claiming this as a one sign is the code limitations you have on square footage for a sign.
And our
I don't
sign
feel it
vendors are
would
aware of the
fit.
square footage is, and we would adjust the size as needed to be within that square footage if it were treated as one sign.
The question is, would it fit and, aesthetically on the tower?
I think that's what, I mean, I'm assuming this will come back, and that's something that I think we can hopefully see a revised rendering of.
As a recommendation for a revision to see at a later date, would you present an option with the logo and the letters to remain on the tower as the iconic Taco Bell look? And then provide striking the other signs, and then one version with just the letters above the window on the main entrance, and then one version with just the logo?
Are you asking to present both
Wait,
options?
Yeah, at the next meeting, would you present those two options?
I can, but I would also have to talk with the owner and see
Okay.
which they would prefer. They may prefer to only have just the letters or just the logo.
Okay,
I mean, trying to keep them happy as well, you know.
absolutely.
Pleasing many masters. I mean, I would also see too if changing that roof line would change your side elevation here with kind of the tower that's here. So I would assume you would want to adjust that sign as well. I did have questions about I'm sorry, are there any more questions about that?
I do have a question about the color. Just going back to when we discussed, did we agree that we are going to allow their logos with the original colors on the signs? I think we did.
We did,
Okay.
yes.
I think we said that that's what we're going to do, but the lettering would have to adhere to, I think, our codes.
The fonts within
Yeah.
the guidelines.
Yeah.
And there was, I believe, a chosen font.
Okay.
I do got to compliment you on your logo. It is very minimal compared to what it could be, and I think it really looks good.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions. So I was going to ask if Emily could confirm the location of the stacking. CVS has it on the side. Chick-fil-A have it on the side. If not tonight, but you just check it to make sure it's the building is sited correctly. I think that's something we need to make sure that it's sitting correctly within the ordinance to look at it. And the reason why I asked that is it affects the menu signs. There's not a location map on here that shows, at least that I could find, that shows your location signs of your menu boards. Am I just missing it?
If you look at the concept site plan D, it
It's
looks
page
like,
30?
looks like this here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where I think it would be important. Most of the other menu signs we've seen have been to the side or to the rear of the building, not in front. And also would affect the canopies too. You have several canopies over I guess one canopy over the menu board. So depending upon where that stacking lands, I think would dictate, at least in my mind, I would have a different assessment of where those signs are located. So if that's something Mr. Chairman, if we could have Emily follow up on with the applicant. A couple other things, dumpster enclosure, I assume you're just going to match what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, but I'd have to get that information from what everybody else is.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend if you don't
Block.
mind. Just, I think you could probably drop in just the schematic from the original plan. Remember, we had a debate over what this one looked like and then what the other one looked like. So if we could just drop that in there, so that's more much for you as for us, that you go to build your dumpster pad, and like, well, you don't have a permit for that, so to me, that's just a friendly recommendation. We already talked about lighting. That's all I had right now, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think my only question was about the menus, but I think that was addressed.
Okay. You being the the planning commission liaison, I guess you have a lot of things to address on this that might deal with code. Anything that we should be aware of?
I don't think so. No, I think everything was already addressed with original plans for this. I think as long as they're adhering to those plans, I think we're okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did have, going back, the location of the drive-through signs, where are those going?
If you look at that concept site plan,
Same one?
it's to the right of the patio area.
This, what I'm talking about are the small ones. Where are they?
And it's,
Yeah, the drive-through ones.
the directional signs?
Yeah, the
Those are
directional
not
signs.
located on that plan.
Okay. If that could be shown. Emily, are they allowed to have those as well? Did you check? And it looks like all of those signs, the canopy, the drive-through signs, the actual drive-through menu sign, is all bronze, like a dark.
The black metal.
Okay. Just recommendation that they all match, or they all be the same. So.
I'm ready to make a motion to table. And Emily, can you work with the applicant for the additional items that we would like to see at the next meeting? Okay,
Can you mention them in the motion, or just recap them real quick before the motion?
okay.
Just to make sure I have them all. I have, the ones I have already written on are the lane stacking per Marchant's request, the directional signage. We'll work on if the applicant would like the logo and the lettering on the primary entrance.
The roof line,
Dumpster materials. And I guess
Signage, lighting.
signage, lighting, and then a location, a more detailed location map of all the proposed signs
Okay.
and the canopies, or the, whatever these canopy covers that are being shown.
I think that's probably an integral piece of the menu board.
I can't tell. Sir?
Yeah.
Is this, on this page, is that the cover over the menu board?
It's not over the menu board, but it's over where they order from.
Okay.
So
Do you
there's,
have like an outdoor stand for,
yeah, I mean, if you look at the site plan to the right of the patio, there's a kind of a long rectangle, that's the menu board. And then directly down sheet of that is that canopy that you just looked at. That's where they order from.
that's from the window or someone standing outside?
It's for the vehicle who's ordering.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Like a weather shield.
Yeah.
okay. I make a motion to table ZP number 2019-022 with a request for more information and revision of the roof line to a peaked roof line, revisiting the lighting of the signs, the lane stacking, the directional signs, discussion of whether the client would like logo and lettering, or logo versus lettering, the dumpster design, and a more detailed map of the signage and anything else? Okay.
Can I ask for clarification? The menu board sign, so you're not in favor of the location of it?
I think generally the precedent has been set that you do not view those menu boards from the street. Like McDonald's might be the exception, although I think they got a new menu board sign that will more orient it toward sheets. But with the Chick-fil-A, a lot of that had to do with the fact that it's not seen from Washington Street. So that's where I was asking, if it's not cited correctly and the stacking lanes have to move, then that naturally moves that sign away from the front, and I think the discussion's a different discussion. If it's between this building and Giuseppe's, you're not going to see it as much from a passerby and have the visual distraction versus out front. If it is correctly sided and those are in the front, then we would probably want to have if there's any discussion on that. So it's the backlit, big backlit sign that you would be able to see from Washington Street. You could pre-order before you drive in.
Yeah, we will probably want that relocated.
Yeah, with your app.
Yeah, you're out. But, so that may be a to be determined sort of thing based on where the drive-through lanes are, stacking lanes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. And I'm going to, since this was kind of a large, ask if you have any questions before we end discussion.
No, I'll take these back to the owner and see how he responds.
Okay.
Good evening. So a couple questions I have. So in our prior approval by ARB, we received basically two approvals, one for comprehensive signage package and basic architectural guidelines. For the signage package, may we show two options? I know, Bond, you requested to see goose light lighting. We have two options in the comprehensive signage package, which basically is either a gooseneck or interior lit channel lettering. And there are two options that were approved, and we basically kind of view that as our document to guide tenants going forward.
Did we?
I will have to go back and verify that and listen to the minutes again.
We would like to propose both elevations in terms of signage next time tenant comes back. So gooseneck as you requested, as well as just to give them more options, give them interior lit.
Was it interior lit or was it?
So Halo was
I think it was
denied,
the
and then
Halo.
interior lit was approved.
If I may, Bond, I think on 38 is what we looked at before. The inline tenants were allowed to be backlit, but those that were on the
In caps.
end caps, or those that were part of this architectural feature, were goosenecks. So that labeled there, and I thought that's where you initially were going. Do you want to bring it over? So it seemed to be a combination.
Of this style or this style?
So the inline tenants were the backlit
Backlit.
and, I guess, pin-mounted or backing panel. That's where they lit from the rear. These allowed goosenecks. There's a gooseneck here and a gooseneck there.
But not this style.
Not that style if it was an inline tenant. So my initial thought about it was the goosenecks would be on the tower, and then the facade would be the backlit.
This style.
That's what I originally thought that they were going for, but it looks like all of them are backlit.
But the picture that they've shown more looks like this, which we didn't approve, right?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, do you mind, Igor, do you mind asking to come up and see what we're talking about? Come on up.
Sure.
Is this what you're talking about from the original plans? We had I forget this architectural feature, but you had the goosenecks
That's correct. So
above the
goosenecks right
sign,
here.
but the inline tenants were either the halo or the backlit.
So Halo, yes, but as you recall, Halo was denied, and we basically had,
I thought this was denied.
no, this was denied. This was approved.
And that's what we're,
I think we'll have to go back and look at that.
okay.
Just get a confirmation
Yeah,
on
we
that.
just wanted to give tenants some optionality, and actually, this is actually an older sheet they've inserted. I haven't seen the plans until today, so the tenant used some
Okay.
of the older
So we gotta use the
documents.
current
Yeah,
documents?
So
Okay.
this is not what was approved, actually, this is an older
Okay,
materials page.
good to know.
But, so I guess the request is just to have optionality and to show different signage options for tenant, and then kind of brainstorm, the board to brainstorm on.
Yes,
yeah.
and we'll just ask Emily to just go back and
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
verify which
Yeah.
styles we approved.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, where are we? We have a motion.
Questions?
So one more question, I guess in terms of Marshawn's comment, in terms of stacking and circulation, that we have an SUP that went through approvals and basically showed how the stacking is and where the board is supposed to go. So all that has been vetted by the Planning Commission and the council. So we basically made no changes to that. It completely meets the guidelines and approvals as set forth in an SUP. So it basically just follows, the tenant followed our guidelines from that perspective. So there are no changes in that. So that's all I have.
And I guess, Emily, if that SUP document can be included with the package so that we have reference to it, that would be good.
Okay.
I acknowledge it's more of an ordinance requirement, but I think if it does need to be amended, then that affects how we view the signage and the aesthetics, so.
Okay, so I got a motion, and just to clarify, Shelley, if you can kind of repeat the motion as much as what we got, tabling it,
Or I can say it again. Okay.
so everyone's on the same page.
I make a motion to table ZP number 2019-022 with a request for more information and revision of the roof line, lighting of the signs, lane stacking. Well, that one we can cross off if it was already approved.
I think we're just asking to confirm it.
Okay. Lane stacking, directional signage, logo and lettering, or logo versus lettering, the dumpster design, and a more detailed map of where the directional signage will go.
I had seconded
That was
it.
the first one I
Yeah.
said.
So that's the clarification. Any more discussion? Okay, let's put it up for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you for coming out.
Now we'll move on to the, yes,
I do have one request. We had one resident step into the meeting late. If it is permitted by the entire board, can we reopen citizens' time?
Citizens' time, you said?
It can also be put up for vote if you wish.
I would put it up for vote at this point.
Can you do a roll call vote for reopening citizens' time?
Cavazos,
Yes.
Verolosik. Yes. Larson,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Correll.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dottie Leonard, 14801 Washington Street. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I think I was 2 minutes late and somebody was already speaking, so it must have gone pretty fast if any citizens spoke. I wanted to first of all commend your legal advice that's here tonight. I am so impressed. 3 terms on the council, at least 3, maybe 4. This stage of my life, I can't remember how many terms I had, but we always had legal advice while we were functioning as a council. If we were stepping out of line or saying something that could open us up, open the town up for a lawsuit, somebody gave us legal advice that saved us from that situation. And as an applicant who has stood here before this very board and been treated in a way that no human being should be treated, and a legal advice person sat here and didn't open their mouth, I thank God for you. I don't even know your name, but I thank God for you, that you are there, that you're in tune to what everybody is saying and doing, and I'm grateful. I'm impressed, extremely impressed. But I also wanted to call to your attention, to the board as a whole, that 3 people have recently, or in the last 2 years, said to me, and the most recent one, just a few weeks ago, said that the town is evolving. This town is under a historic overlay. If you're going to enforce the historic overlay and you don't know what you're doing, then you need some legal advice or a professional architect to tell you what fits into the adopted overlay requirements. If you've evolved the requirements, then the citizens of this town, and I'm the chair of a citizens organization, would like to know. Maybe under a FOIA request, we need to know what your current guidelines actually say. If that's necessary, we can do it. But I want to say, I see what everybody's doing. I know that you're honest and you mean well. I know that both of the ladies over there are honest and they mean well. I'm grateful that you're there and that you're thinking. Even if you don't agree with me or any citizen in this town, if you're thinking before you make a decision, I'm impressed. Not just with personal agendas. And in bringing up the roof line, I am so thrilled that you brought that up, because that roof line did matter. And this property joins the property that was and currently is approved and built, the Dog's Day Out. This board, whether it was all of you or some of you, but this board turned those people down for 2 years, back and forth over the roof line. And it could have been solved in a month. Just tell them what they need to do, and they're willing to do it. If they want to be a part of this precious, historic town, they'll do what they need to do. And you're right, it needs to have a different pitch. It should not just guessing at pitches and saying a pitch that mimics something, but you need to say 8/12 pitch. You need to give it an actual elevation. So I hope you'll get some advice that's better than mine, but I served on the ARB and I helped start it. So I know a little bit about it, and we had an architect who gave us advice. And the final thing I'll say is, well, no, it won't be the final. Sorry, folks. But the sign ordinance is important too. We always allowed directional signs. We have a colonial theme to our historic overlay. Directional signs are allowed in colonial jurisdictions. Some of these signs might be good, some might not. If you keep in mind the colonial theme, think of uplighting to make the signs show up instead of backlighting to make them look like 1960, because we're not evolving. If you don't want the historic overlay, then let it go away. But I promise you, this town will be in an uproar, because most of them in former surveys have said they moved here because of the historic overlay, because of the brick sidewalks, because of the street lights. So keep all of that in mind. And when it comes to saving one Gossam lived-in house, how can this town stay out of court raising that issue when they paid $200,000 of taxpayers' money to tear down the Gossam Country Store that sat on that grass out there? It's a joke. That's all I'm going to say. Have a good night, but thank God for you.
Thank you for your comments, Dottie. Okay, we'll go back to our original agenda now and move on to the last zoning permit, 2019-023.
Yes, so in your packet on page 57, you have the certificate of appropriateness for Wonderful Haymarket LLC. Just a little bit of background here for you, as this is a new application to the ARB. Dr. Moon's dental office is moving from the Food Lion Shopping Center to the BB&T Bank building. They are adaptively reusing the BB&T Bank building, and they will be closing in the drive-through lanes that currently exist today to expand the footprint of the office. So you have those plans here in your packet. You were also given a hard copy. So the hard copy has several updates to the signs in the very back pages. However, the first few pages are the same. Tonight, you guys are looking at the exterior materials that are proposed, as well as the signage. The rest of the plan will be going to the Planning Commission for review of the expansion of the building, and then the interior work goes directly to the building department. So tonight is just the exterior materials and the signage. I will invite up the applicant. Anna Moon is here tonight to represent the application, answer any questions you have, and I will also pass out the samples.
Thank you so much, Emily, and good evening. My name is Anna Moon, and I'm here to ask for your approval for the expansion of the BB&T building, what used to be BB&T building. So there were actually a couple more minor adjustments on the package. I added a new page 7 in addition to the Appendix A to give you a better idea of what we're imagining the expansion to be. It's a satellite photo that shows the existing drive-through area. And if you could imagine the building just extending through the end of the current drive-through, that's what we would like to propose.
For the board, real quick, that's this page with the 2 photos and the yellow box that shows the expansion.
No changes made in Appendix D that shows the material samples and photos. There was a minor change in Appendix C, page 13 in the new package. There was an existing door that was not shown in the previous package that was submitted. It was shown as a window, but it should be a door there.
Is this on the new addition?
No, not the addition. So there was no change made to the addition, but there was a fix that I needed to make on the existing part of the elevations. That's the west side of the elevations. So what shows as a window should be a door.
Which one, is this the one on the Washington Street facade?
That's the one
The one
on
along?
the other side,
It's the
not
one,
facing Madison, or
it's the one that abuts the Contrucci parking lot, the old bank building
So
parking
that
lot.
one is a door right there, basically. Looks like.
Yes, so that would be a new door.
so we are adding 2 new emergency exit doors on the added part. But the change that was made from the packet that you did receive earlier, it shows a window as opposed to a door on the existing side, if that makes sense.
You want to ask questions?
I guess, Emily, right now the description is strictly on the building modification. Is the sign package going to be separate, or is it included in
The
here?
sign
since
package is included. You'll have the signage page is further back. 1 second.
Yeah, 'cause that's not part of the hard copy pages, right?
Packet page 72, the very last page of the online packet that you received, the agenda packet, has the sign specification, and then the minor updates are included in Appendix D that was provided, the second page that was provided.
So our intention is to keep all the structural designs and colors of the existing building on the expanded portion. So we took a very careful look at what's existing and try to match as close as possible for the material we'll be using for the expansion.
So idea is to replace the architectural shingles with architectural shingles. Are you replacing the entirety of the roof or just putting the new roof on
No,
the back?
I think we're only replacing the expansion part, including the drive-through area.
And then it looks like you were, you picked out too that you're adding either a gable along, so you're raising the roof of the, where's that elevation that you were showing?
You want the top?
So on the west, can I borrow that for a second?
Yep.
On the east elevation, as you're looking, are you extending the roof over the, because right now isn't the drive-through, is it flat or does it have a gable on it? I can't remember. Or a pitched roof on it?
It's got a
Commercial
pitch roof.
pitch.
It's in the overhead.
If you look at the existing overhead, you can see pretty clear how the roof pitch is designed. So there is a pitch to it, but there is also a flat
They're gonna
portion
expand
it comes up to.
So you guys are going to expand it. Looks like you're going to have a continuous roof line, so you'll expand the roof back. Make sense what I'm asking?
Yes.
So right now we have a kind of a lower roof elevation. Looks like you're going to extend the roof line basically all the way to the back of the building, which
Yes.
makes sense to me. I'm just trying to clarify.
So
And
if
then
you
you're
were to
adding this.
take the front half of the existing building and just extend it out, that's what we're imagining.
So replace the roof and match it.
Yes,
And you're staying entirely within the footprint of the drive-through.
yes.
But expanding out to the full width of the building.
Yes.
But expand it to the full width of the building.
Yeah,
Okay, not just the drive-through.
right.
So the end result will show a perfectly rectangular building.
Oh, okay. And then the chairman noticed that you're adding the gable on the back too to kind of match.
The existing gable on the front portion of the
Yeah,
building.
you have one on the front and you have on the sides. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So I've experienced two philosophies on building additions. One philosophy is make it match as if it was always there. Another one that says provide some little variation so that they can see that built over time. Sounds like, are you really lucky enough to find the exact brick?
So those are the bricks that we have chosen.
Okay.
And we're hoping that it will match as close as possible. And we were told that if not, we have the opportunity to stain it to match.
So one way of thinking, which I've thought both ways are fine, is that if a little bit of variation shows that these buildings are eclectic, they have variations, they're built on over time. So not having the exact match, I think, gives some character and aligns with what we're looking at.
Yeah, and it looks like they do have a downspout as a break of
Oh,
where
for
the
the massing
building's going to
or the
be.
facade?
Well, not just the massing, but actually the kind of like a separation point of where the old building goes to the new.
And then the relief on the corners is already there, I noticed. So up on the front, you have that relief on the corner bead. So repeating on that in the back, I think is a good idea. What I think, what would be supported by the council policies?
Yep. I think it all fits. That kind of addresses the building, I guess addressing the sign.
So on the sign part, we're seeking your approval for using the currently existing signage pole that the BB&T sign used to sit on. I'm not sure if you would allow for us to use that.
I would prefer to see, let me pull this up, a freestanding sign that is spot-lit versus an internally lit sign.
It is not going to be internally lit.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the codes for signs on what our restrictions are for signs. I know in the past that anything that was grandfathered in at exchange of ownership and modifications were made we're ending up having to be compliant to that. What are their options when it comes to the signage with the codes?
In addition to that, I would also like to add, there is also in our ordinance that if a sign is abandoned for an extended period of time after a business is closed, I do believe, I'll look it up, I do believe it's 2 years, that town staff can actually give written notice that the structure will be removed. So that sign has long since been abandoned. I'm talking about the gray post sign that's presented in the packet with the white block on top. So I think that should also be part of the discussion of, is this an abandoned sign structure that BB&T long since abandoned when they left, and that has been over 2 years.
I think we should
So
remove
I actually
that.
do have a secondary design.
Okay.
That mimics the designs of the signs in the neighborhood business.
Okay. Thank you.
So the lettering on the structure itself will remain the same, the word Dennis.
Mhm.
As for the standing freestanding sign.
This is definitely more in line.
Yeah.
Do you have one extra copy? If not, I can get it later.
And this, I guess another alternative would be, imagine you're gonna have spoilage, or you're gonna have leftover brick. I mean, that might be an option too, if you already have that expense and have some leftover, doing an attractive brick base, and then setting the sign on that, if it's not an additional cost.
Is that
I would-
more preferred?
That's one option, maybe give the options to you, one or the other. This year, I would agree, matches kind of the precedent that has been set out there. We have the one on Madison. We got the Madison shops, although that sign's down.
BCA.
VCA has a smaller wooden sign. The only one that's brick, I think, is, anyway. I was just going to offer that as an alternative, if that's something you want to do. So maybe, that's just an idea, not contingent upon this, but if that's, later on, when you get into the project, if it makes more sense and you can reuse some of that brick, then you're certainly welcome to revisit that. I think some of the other projects, we've tried to match the materials of the sign to match the main building, and that would be, I think, one opportunity to do
That
that.
would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think the Food Lion sign on Leeberry is in brick with a wood piece in it.
It's almost
You
set
also-
on top, right?
Yeah. You also have Long Street Commons. That's got
Wood,
a stone as opposed to a brick, but even Long Street Commons has adapted to a more solid sign. But it's just an option.
Thank you. So if we were to move in that direction, we would have to come back and show you all the new designs using the brick? Would that, how that will work?
I would think we would want to see it, yes, but,
Could we
that shouldn't be
delegate
percent.
this authority to Emily with examples of what she would be basing it on?
so let me ask this then. So right now, it's on a white background. Is it a PVC sign
It would be
base?
wooden.
The wood sign itself with vinyl lettering?
Yes.
so it's like a blue,
Greenish.
that's your corporate color, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So to me, it would be just, are we comfortable, before we move to that direction,
Yeah.
is the ARB generally comfortable with the material of the sign base itself? Or the face of the sign itself?
I think that I would change the posts and the border to black to match the dentist writing on the building, just trying to make them more cohesive. Or I would change the dentist on the building to match the green that they use on the sign.
Either or?
Just because I feel like they need to be brought together somehow.
I think that's a good idea. I like
We can
that.
definitely do that. Is there any preference as to which one we change? Not for me.
I think the black on the building is more appropriate, to have that match the
Yeah, that's what
the sign.
The sign,
And the
yeah.
border.
Any comments on finial, so those are wood posts, like 4x4s, painted black, any finial tops, or we're okay with a plain kind of top?
It looks like in the picture, they have
A
looks
cap,
like a little pyramid cap.
okay. Do you understand what we're talking about?
On
Just
this
some sort of decorative feature on top of it, whether it's a finial or just a cap,
Okay.
I think that would be,
To give an example, it's very similar to the town sign that's right outside of here in the landscaping bed. It has just a cap that sits on top.
Oh, on the post themselves?
Yep, on the post.
Okay, understand.
so if I understand the conversation correctly, it's this, maybe some options is this first one, which is a freestanding sign, I guess? Or monument sign, we're okay with the height, we're okay with the size. Black posts, black perimeter, some sort of decorative cap. And then, do we want to say that maybe if they want to replace the bottom of it with a brick foundation to match the building and just sit it on top of that, and then they wouldn't have to come back?
Or they could also do a brick border around each post.
Oh, like a column?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense, what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I am confused about the lining on the lettering of the dentist in the building. Did we clear
Talk about
that
that.
out?
Oh, the individual letter sign up on the
Uh-huh.
building? Oh, yeah, we haven't really talked about that yet.
Could you repeat that question one more time?
I was talking to the ARB because we are recapping all this to approve, right? And my question was about the lighting on the signage of the building, you know, the word dentist.
How is it being lit?
The
Yes.
lighting?
That's a good question.
Yes.
I actually
Because we were not clear.
haven't thought about that part. I wasn't thinking it would be lit at all. Okay.
I think there's actually a couple of like small lights that are
On the
currently
building,
there.
on the facade. Are they shining down on it, or?
It's just next to the doors.
Oh,
You're talking
okay.
about,
Kind of like a
talking about these on either side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just planning on making all the ones that are like currently there.
So these lights are saying provide enough illumination that people are going to make out the word dentist?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
no one wants to see us at night.
Yeah, they're not looking to draw night business, so.
We're planning on like
Okay.
minimum lighting, just enough for people to know there's a building there. It's like really pretty
Oh,
lampposts
it's
that are
just
there,
simple.
Yeah.
so we're just gonna keep all of that.
And this,
Okay. Thank you.
and this is in wood? the dentist or?
Plastic,
Plastic, okay.
PVC.
So where are we at?
Does anybody have any other questions?
No, I appreciate you making the investment. It's going to be a nice
Yeah.
facility.
The only issue I had was the freestanding sign, and I like this one better, so.
Thank you for going with the alternate options.
So I guess one question to the board before we make the motion. Are we going to leave the options that we described for the signs approvable by Emily?
Yeah, for the brick. Mm-hmm.
And so that I understand exactly what was discussed, that would be a brick option here on the post, or down here as a base foundation?
Or just at the bottom of the
Or
columns
just
as well.
here and here?
Like,
Okay,
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
So yeah, you can like look at the Food Lion sign and see how that brick foundation is, and that could be supporting the post by itself, or else you can make it a column of brick with the 4x4s.
Okay.
I'm going to say the one.
Or are we going to allow just leaving the 4x4s by themselves as well, or?
I'm okay with that.
So you got all three options there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
I want to say the Food Lion one has the brick base and then the running pattern.
Yeah, I think there's the brick base, and then there's a little bit on the side that tacks into the,
Yep.
into it.
You know what, we might have a picture.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to say, Emily, in the back of our design guidelines, there's a,
The food line sign is in there? Yes.
where is
If I brought mine, I think I only got the code book.
My encyclopedia stuff.
Ken, would you mind if we took like a 2-minute recess?
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not counting.
Thanks.
Sorry, buddy. I'm on a
Yeah,
roll.
we can take a recess. Um,
Where did I see it?
Okay, we are back to continue the meeting. Welcome back, everybody. Where do we stand at this point?
I think we're ready to make a motion.
Okay, who would like to
I can,
draft up the motion?
sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve zoning permit number 2019-023 with the preferred sign being the new sign that she gave us, which was the freestanding sign pictured here. And we would like to ask that the posts on the sign are painted black as well as the border, and the applicant add a decorative post cap. And they have the option to have a brick foundation added to the sign, or a brick border added to the posts, or brick columns added to the post, and the applicant can work with Emily to get the final approval on the brick.
And the brick to match the building.
Yes.
Okay, and one other question before we go into a second. You mentioned the post and the border. The interior, is that still going to stay the teal color, or is everything going to be matching?
I think just the post and the border.
Okay. So I got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Last chance for discussions. And I guess last chance for you to ask any questions.
I don't have any questions. I very much appreciate all of your time and your advice, and we'll definitely work with Emily to make the sign look the best it can be.
We got to prove it first, so let's go for approval. Let's vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now you can thank us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and answering our questions. Okay, that leads us to the next agenda item, which, let me pull up here. New business.
At this time, there's no new business.
Okay.
I do have some old business, though.
Yep. Anybody on the old board, anybody on the board have any new business they want to address? Okay, we'll move on to old business.
So I will be sending out the ARB guidelines that we had drafted a couple months back. And I would request any comments or recommendations, any changes be sent to me prior to our August meeting so that I can incorporate them into the document. And then I would like to request at our August meeting to have those guidelines sent up to council for approval. So
Okay.
if that, does that give everyone adequate time? I know we discussed them a bit previously, and I think we all had a pretty good grasp on what was changed.
Are we modifying these online or adding comments online or
Yes.
separate?
So I still have that Google Doc drive that was given out, so I'll just kind of resend that so that you can go in and just do your track changes. Or if you don't feel comfortable using that, I understand. You can email me any changes you have, or if you're a handwritten person, you can mark on it and drop it off at Town Hall. Anything works. If you have comments, I'll work with them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I will just add one thing. We have had several applications come in that are applicable for administrative approval, so I have been doing a couple of those, and the residents have really appreciated and enjoyed that little bit faster review time for their patios or decks that are completely behind the house. So I just wanted to share that bit of news with you.
Okay.
That's all I have for old business.
I thought, oh yeah, I thought there's one other old business that I think I have for you to comment on. But beforehand, question to the board. With the administrative approvals, would you like to see those approvals within our packet so you can see what activity is happening behind the scenes? Or-
Whatever you all prefer.
What would be just to be able to be up to speed if someone asks us, or?
Yeah, so that we're aware of what's being approved, just in case any question does come up that we need to address. I don't know, it's just, want to make sure that you guys don't feel like,
Lost sometimes.
yeah, you end up getting lost.
Is the idea to see the full materials, or maybe just like a quick list of things that?
Quick list of activities would be
Okay.
fine, nothing that would drag out your time.
I think bullet points adding to all business and what you have approved administratively.
Yeah,
What I'll
the-
do is, if it's amenable to you guys, for council, each month I give a town planner report. Within that, I have an ARB report. It's a matrix and an Excel spreadsheet, so I'll just take that snippet and present it to you guys each month.
Okay,
So everything I do for the ARB-related projects is in there.
yeah, because that'll identify the COAs that you've approved, and so we're aware of what changes are happening within the town. The other thing, and I lost thought again. Oh yeah, the welcome signs.
Yes. So it is the new fiscal year, so what I was going to recommend is we discussed a design concept. With that, I would like to reach out to the local graphic designer we use to see if she can help us mock up an idea. This would probably be a very low-cost option, so we at least have a kind of proof that we can approve, the board can approve, and then that can be presented to any sign company to get bids on how much it would be. So that way we can kind of get a closer option on cost. Does that work for everyone? This is something I would bring to the board before we put it out for any kind of sign bids.
Yes, and you would use the design that we
The design
all
we
made.
approved in April or May.
I think that's a great idea.
I agree. Anybody have any objections? Okay. So, yeah, move forward with that.
Okay.
Any other questions or additions for old business? Okay, we'll move on to town planner update.
1 second. A couple updates. We just learned today that September 9th will be the tentative construction date of the playground. So that's very exciting. This will also be shared with Planning Commission tomorrow night and Council as well at our next meeting. We will take all precautions to rope off the area, notify the public. It'll go out in our newsletter that portions of the park will be temporarily closed. We have some new applications coming in. Just a update on a project you've heard about before, the Williams Holding Project here on Jefferson Street. That will be up for public hearing tomorrow night with the Planning Commission. So I would expect in a couple months the ARB will have design elevations for review. So that is about all I have for town planner update.
Okay, any questions for Emily? Okay, move on to Planning Commission update.
Not much of an update. We had to cancel our June meeting because we didn't have a quorum, but we did have a joint work session with the town council and the mayor for the moving the park playground area. Except we ended up not moving it and leaving it where it was. And then the Megalodon group wanted to add more townhouses, or I think it was townhouses where the hotel was supposed to be, but we said no to that. That's about it.
Okay, so I guess that area is still being held tight for something like a hotel or daycare?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Ayush? Okay, we'll move on to town council update.
So on July 1st, we acted on the blight ordinance on the properties 14941 Washington Street and 6707 Jefferson Street, which is the firehouse and then the home behind it. I believe that we sent a fine to the owner.
Yep.
And go ahead.
So the fine letter will be sent this week. We had to update it with a couple costs for the proposals. We did get proposals from our landscaping company to complete the work. I don't know if anyone was able to notice, but there was some vegetation removed off of the firehouse. However, when this was done, it did show that there's a bit more damage, rot, disintegrating cinder blocks, more broken windows. So that's going to be addressed in a follow-up blight letter.
Then, as Ayush said, we had a special meeting on June 20th where we referred the ZTA 2019-001, the Haymarket Hotel Venture, to Planning Commission, and that's going to be at tomorrow's meeting, correct? And then we went into a closed session, and when we came out of closed session, the ARB was censured, and we are going to be doing a ARB training on July 31st at 7 p.m. Does anybody have any questions?
I guess on the censure, I think I listened to it, it was said inappropriate behavior during the recess. Are you able to share any other specifics? That seemed to be a very broad statement.
I think any questions that you have, I can take to town council. And I can also refer the questions to you and to Martin, only because I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say.
I do have a question for you then. Are we able to, as an ARB, go into closed session to talk about the censure?
I'll check into that for you and get back to you on that particular issue. I'm not certain about that.
Okay. 'Cause I feel like we can't to discuss another legislative body.
Yeah.
But I did have some questions or what I would like to have answered by the training. Is that appropriate to bring up an open session or?
Questions you want answered during the training?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else first or?
Do you want to give them to him, or do you want to read them?
Well, I wrote some notes down that I want
Sure.
to talk about. So I guess the part about going into closed session is to have some ability to have some, I don't know what I'm looking for, but anyway. I was disappointed by the council action, and that was not taken for what it was. In the military, you just call it a hot mic. It is common practice during meetings to have sidebars, discussions with applicants during recesses. Frequently, folks will come up to the board and engage during those recesses. So to me, not taking it for what it was, to me, creates an unnecessarily divisiveness. And so I was disappointed that that action was taken and there wasn't much opportunity for us to discuss it. I think we all care about the town. The statement of inappropriateness and smattering of training topics is ambiguous. To me, this creates the perception or undermines the credibility of the ARB, which is a concern to me and unnecessarily, I think, creates a divisive relationship with the council. As I said before, I think we get a disproportionate amount of criticism when you look at our record and what we've approved and what we've done versus what is not approved. I think we do a good job. But left without explanation, we are left to make assumptions of as to what during our conversation was deemed appropriate. Again, assuming we're not going to go into closed session. Ahead of the training, I would like to feedback from Martin and yourself if you're available. First of all, was it a FOIA an issue? I called, there's a Richmond resource office for FOIA. The informal feedback when I described the situation, apparently they're very familiar with Haymarket, was that Emily did the right thing by separating us during recess. Remember when I came over and chatted with you? And this video is all up online. And as I said earlier, I think we had a reasonable expectation. The protocol when you go into recess is just shut off the camera. So I think we had a reasonable expectation that our conversation would be some discreet, even if we're still in the room. And talking to this resource officer, sidebars are common, but his recommendation was you probably should leave the dais, which is probably general practice for the future. I went ahead and got a copy of my code of conduct. I again listened to it again. To me, for it to be a violation of code of conduct, we would have had to deliberately been trying to. The fact that we were, again, under recess and discussion, the fact that we have opinions, people have a very negative opinion of me, but it is what it is. And the fact that we share those negative opinions, if we were deliberately in an open forum trying to harass or embarrass somebody else, I could see the cause for that. But having what was expected to be a discreet conversation, I don't see that as a code of conduct violation. There's reference to training for procedures. We had the guidance tonight on that, but we do have 45 days to address applications, regardless of an applicant's timeline, and we don't necessarily have to give justification as to why we want to take that full 45 days, but we did. Coincidentally, during the last vote on this House, I got approached about folks concerned about liability. Reviewing the video, I don't see an issue. To me, being offended by something that's said is not cause for a lawsuit. We gave 45 days to have the applicant make a better case. They chose not to address it. Moreover, I think it's important is that ARB decisions can be appealed. John Bennett, many years ago when he was a town attorney, he made it clear that he wanted the council's ability to appeal any decision of the ARB to limit liability. And so any decision that we make is appealable, and it's appealable within a 30-day period. To me, as a practical matter, why would someone spend thousands of dollars on a lawsuit, file fees, and not even get a court date for 3 months when they can pay $300 and appeal it to the ARB, to the council within 30 days? So if that is seen as a liability issue, it's not sure, I don't think it is, but it's not clear how the censure would protect the interests of the town if sued. I don't think we did anything wrong. It was unfortunate that we had a hot mic on, But I respectfully disagree with the council's censure, so those are my thoughts on it.
And I agree with Marchant. So in the training, I would like an understanding of where we violated any type of FOIA laws if we did, or any type of code of conducts, and give a good definition of why we're being censured. And training, I think training's always good, but even still, just the sense of why we were forced into training off of this issue. I think if we could get those type of questions answered within the training session, that would be good.
Those things will be addressed during the training session, for sure.
And to me, the benefit of that training, you have to know what was the issue.
Yeah.
But that smattering of training, it wasn't really clear what it was specifically that was an issue. So, and you missed all of it.
I watched.
Anybody else have any questions for Bond with town council update? Okay, then I guess we'll move on. What's our next item here? Is it adjournment? Is
Oh,
it
really?
adjournment? Are we up to that? Come on. There we go. Yes, we are. We're up to adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Not too quick on that. Boy, you guys are slowing down in your old age. Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Didn't mean to sideswipe you with
No.
our questions.
No,
but,
it's fine.
it-
It's a closed session discussion, so I